Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. I am back with another episode. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message was sent to me by one of our dear brothers. The message reads like this. Hello brother Nashi, can you please post for me? I am a man who is aged 35. I have came here on your platform so that I can confess all the evil things that I witnessed at the time when I was serving a very evil and whom I can say was a heartless fake prophet. My story started with my mother. My mother, from her family's side, we had been told that a lot of her relatives had spiritual gifts. They were healers. They were the ones that could assist even those people that wanted to be healers but were not gifted with the gift of being a healer. So the type of a gift that my mother and some of her relatives had was that they could see into the future. So when my father, who was a truck driver at that time, started working for another company, he was then transferred and he started driving a small truck like those ones that transport bread. So my father used to regularly transport bread, and he would go with the bread to my mother's village and the surrounding villages, and that was how that he met my mother. And my mother, when they met, my father was a devoted Christian, and my mother was going through the process of her becoming a traditional healer. And when they met, that was when my mother gave her life to Christ. This was against the wish of her grandmother, who was insisting that my mother was supposed to become a traditional healer as she was. But my mother, after she had fell in love with my father, she then chose that it was far much better for her to become a Christian. But after my mother had refused to give up on Christianity and follow up the dream of her grandmother of her becoming a traditional healer, that was when we were told that her grandmother then cursed our mother, and she then said that our mother will never have a child for the rest of her days. They both moved into the city, and when they arrived in the city, that was when they attempted to start a small family, but they failed. And since my mother was now a Christian, she refused to ever visit a witch doctor. Whenever her family would request that she should come back to the village so that they can give her some herbs that were going to assist her so that she can fall pregnant, our mother was so stubborn and she refused to ever take any herbs again in her life. My father and my mother, they kept on praying and praying until they finally visited this other church. The church that we used to go to, it was one of those old churches like Roman Catholic. That was the church that my father used to attend. But now they went to look for any kind of help that they could get from this other Pentecostal church. So this Pentecostal church that they started attending, it was a new church in town. And at that time that they visited that church, trying to be assisted so that my mom could start conceiving. Fortunate enough, my mother, after they had gone to that church, my mother then received a miracle, and she then had her children, including me. When my mother had her first child, it was said that my father, after they had gotten their miracle, wanted the both of them to go back to his original church, which was the Roman Catholic, because he seemed to be so doubtful with the daily runnings of the new church that they were now both attending, because there were things that were done in that church that my father was said to have not understood. But my mother, as a woman of faith who had received a miracle in that new Pentecostal church that they were now both attending, she refused to turn her back on this new church that she was now fully devoted to, and it caused a great division in their marriage. And by the time that we grew up, my father was no longer present in our lives, because after they had this big fight, my father returned back to his church, which was the Roman Catholic. Then my mother continued going to that Pentecostal church. When our father left our mother, the church then started assisting my mother, and she then started working for the church, helping out with the day-to-day runnings of that Pentecostal church, and she was getting paid for it. It was not a lot of money, but we could survive on the donations that our mother was getting, because a lot of people that used to attend at that new Pentecostal church, most of them, they were wealthy people. When they saw that my mom had a gift, they kept on giving my mom a lot of donations, because even though she was now a Pentecostal woman, that gift of prophecy never left her. So some people would visit my mother late at night so as to speak with her like in secret. Then she would give them their prophecies. When I grew much older, I then saw that most of the people from church were now taking advantage of my mother. Like there was this other woman, she was in the middle of sorting out the papers so that she could go overseas and work there. But there was one trouble: her visa kept on getting denied. And when her visa kept on getting denied, she had even put out a prayer request at church, even though people had tried to fast over this issue so that her visa could be granted to her. But it seemed as if it was not meant to be for her to go overseas. I still remember that she once came to our place. It was late at night, and she then spoke with my mother, even on the day when she visited us, because at that time we were staying in the high density area. And when she came, that woman, she was driving a very big car, and no one ever thought that she might end up driving into the high density areas. But she came late at night. Then she spoke with my mother. They went into another room, because when we were growing up, when we were still staying in the high density area, we had 2 rooms. The other room was the room that was once used by my mother and my father when they were still married to each other as their bedroom. Then there was the second room. The second room was the one that we used to use as the living room and the kitchen, and me and my siblings, we used to sleep in that same room. So after they had spoken with my mom, they went into my mom's bedroom so that they could pray. After my mom had prayed for her, that was when that lady that had came to ask for help from my mother left a loaf of bread. Yes, my brother, 2 weeks later, a visa was out, and the price that she paid to my mother was a simple loaf of bread. I then remember that the following Sunday, after a visa had came out, then that woman stood up and she gave out her testimony. I looked at that woman in disbelief when she said that the pastor had prayed for her, and after the pastor had prayed for her, that was when her visa came out.